Hey familia, Igni here and welcome back to Shadowverse. But before we jump into things, I want to let you guys know that I have a second channel now, youtube.com/Ignideus2. Up on there right now is a Soul Calibur 6 Libra of Soul full playthrough because I'm having a lot of fun with that game right now. So the reason why I'm having a second channel is that I thought it'd be a good idea to split unedited content, like full playthroughs and such, on this channel and have the edited content as well as Shadowverse content on the main channel. But honestly, if this whole experiment doesn't really work out, I might just post full playthroughs and stuff on the main channel in tandem with all the usual stuff you're getting. So instead of splitting my efforts between two channels, it'll be all on the same thing. But I just wanted to give this kind of format a try and see if it takes off. So if you're keen, go ahead and subscribe, youtube.com/Ignideus2. Appreciate ya. But for the actual video, let's talk about the balance changes that were just announced. I actually had another video planned for today, but then they suddenly announced a bunch of nerfs and a few buffs as well, so let's talk about it. First up, Weathered Vanguard's Enhance effect now summons 3 1/2s instead of 3 2/2s. Galmew's Evolve effect only procs once per turn instead of being able to proc multiple times. Flauros can only be invoked during your third turn or later, but with the same conditions. Arthur is now an 8 play point 3/7. Gremory now has the Enhance effect activating on 7 play points instead of 6. Darkfeast Bat was increased by 1 play point as well. And for the buffs, Yggdrasil was reduced by 1 play point to 6 play points here from 7. And Alexiel reduced to 7 from 8. So what are the reasons they give? Well, let's take a look at the stats here. That is absolutely absurd for win rates. So it makes sense that they're nerfing a bunch of stuff at the same time, just to really tone down the power level. And I feel like that's totally warranted because this expansion has felt extremely powerful so far. I think a little too powerful, frankly, and the fact that this nerf is coming pretty soon, despite them saying that it would be on November 25th, coming out this month instead, I really do appreciate that. So, again, the win rates are really high, and in Unlimited, going first win rate actually went up 53.7, up from 52.2%, so first verse is starting to creep back in again. And in Rotation, the going first win rates actually have decreased by 1%. So we'll see how things shake up after these changes are, in the game and take effect. Now let's talk about why they nerfed some of these cards and what I think about them, I guess. So the big one for Take 2 was the Weathered Vanguard nerf. Not really a card you see a lot in Constructed, but in Take 2, this guy is a freaking beast. Because it's a bronze, you get it all the time, then you summon a full board, and you don't have premium removal at your disposal at all times in Take 2 like you do in Constructed, right? So, reducing it to Heavy Knights will probably help the problem. I still think this card is very strong in Take 2, though. But with this card as it was, Swordcraft had a 57% win rate in Take 2, which is crazy. The Galmew nerf is pretty brutal. I think it's still a good card, because a lot of the times you only do proc it off once, but the high roll potential of Galmew with several Disciple of Disdains, for example, or Disdainful Rendings, has really gone down. So I think this affects the power level of the card quite a bit. I still think it's usable, but yeah, it's kind of brutal. But at least only one card in the deck was nerfed, right? Yeah, should still be playable though, I expect. The good thing is, of course, when it gets nerfed, it's viable for full vial value, so if it doesn't end up being very good, at least you get your 3,500 vials back. Moving on, Flauros. The Flauros nerf seems kind of not that impactful. Of course, it reduces the high roll potential quite a bit because you're not getting like turn 1, turn 2 Flauros anymore, which was just ridiculous, right? But honestly, most of the time you invoke it after your third turn or during your third turn or later anyway. So, and the stats were not touched at all, so it can still be a 0 play point 5/3 that restores defense to your leader. And if I'm reading this correctly, only the invocation effect has changed and not the evolve effect, so it still has the same restore 5 on evolve. So I think the card is still plenty powerful. Honestly, the real hit for Darkfeast Bat was nerfing it to 8 play points, which I think was sort of like the bare minimum acceptable nerf. I still think that a win con at 8 is really lame, but hopefully the other changes to the ecosystem here have we'll be able to push it out a little bit. Anyway, talking about Arthur first here. Arthur Knight King, 8 play point 3/7 now to 7 play point 2/6. I think this nerf is actually really impactful for Swordcraft. it makes it so that the curve is like way out of whack now. Your 8 play point slot is so crowded. You have Latham, Dragon Knights, Chromatic Duel, and now you have Arthur at the same slot, and your 7 is a lot more barren. You know, you can't go Zeta Arthur into your 8, so it makes the curve a lot more awkward, I think. Sky Fortress as well, but I don't think that's as relevant. So really messing with Sword's curve here, which is, I think, the best way to go about things, because Swordcraft really benefits off that curve snowballing potential. Like, you just curve out and you win the game. So really overloading the 8-drop slot here may cause Swordcraft to need to rethink how they build their decks. I still think it's a playable card, though. Yeah. Gremory. Gremory, this enhance, I feel like, was a long time coming. I feel like this should have happened ages ago. It now conflicts a little bit more with Gil and Elise, at least. I think the enhance from 6 to 7 is actually pretty impactful, because now your opponent gets an extra turn to clear your board and get more chances at their removal to clear your board before you Gremory them. It can still be a threat, but I think this nerf is totally reasonable. When they first limited Gremory and Unlimited, which is a weird sentence to say, but when they first limited Gremory and Unlimited, I feel like it wasn't enough. Now, maybe. I think the reason why they nerfed it as well is because they decided the win rates here, and I think Shadowcraft legitimately is one of the strongest decks in the game right now. And apparently, according to this, number 2 and number 3 are both Shadowcraft decks, so yeah, pretty necessary. And the buffs, finally, we already talked about Darkfeast bad here, but the buffs here, Yggdrasil at 6 and Alexiel at 7 are pretty great changes. Now, Alexiel can just be a counter to bats now, so if Havencraft in rotation gets a little bit more popularity here, because they say that it was kind of underplayed in rotation, then now maybe it can stand a chance against these big combo decks. And speaking of big combo decks, Yggdrasil being 6 now means that you can curve out with her on turn 10 with Blessings of Wrath, which is nuts, so making the whole OTK with Yggdrasil a lot more accessible instead of you having to play Yggdrasil and then wait till another turn after. So you can actually play it from your hand, Yggdrasil, Blessings of Wrath, if you already have a board. Or if you just have a bunch of 0 play points and stuff. Which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty relevant. Maybe this makes Yggdrasil a lot more playable, actually. Just because it now also lands on an evolve turn, right? So you can play Yggdrasil and evolve her on one of your evolve turns. And get the drain effect from her without having to spend your 0 play point Blessings of Wrath. Really strong card buff in general, so I expect to see this being played quite a bit more. But yeah, I mean, I just think that these are pretty good nerfs in general. I think Bloodcraft could have been hit a little more. Surprising that Valneric wasn't hit at least a little bit. Surprising that Flauros wasn't hit a lot more, considering it's the card most hated by people. This seems like it isn't relevant most of the time. It is nice to reduce the high roll potential, of course, but I think the card is still incredibly powerful. And yeah, like I said, I think the Darkfeast bat was like the minimum expected nerf. What I'm disappointed in is that I just wish the game was a little less focused on these one-card win conditions that you need to draw to win, and win really fast as well, like before even turn 10 hits. I think that really leaves draw RNG quite high, and without suitable tutors or really great draw cards, your 40-card deck makes it harder to get these when you really need it sometimes, and maybe that's a good thing, but when you don't get it, it becomes really frustrating, when your opponent gets it especially. But yeah, that's my thoughts in general. Take a look at the stats a little bit more here. The usage rates, Arthur Swordcraft had 13.1% usage rate, which is the second highest, despite being the number 1 win rate. Darkfeast Bat only had 17.9%, which makes sense. I guess Swordcraft beats Bloodcraft, and I think that Shadowcraft can beat Bloodcraft as well. And I think that Dragoncraft can pretty much beat Bloodcraft as well, frankly. Seeing that Galmu is being played with PDK is not surprising, but I do think that it's interesting that the stats here only reflect the PDK variant. I think the Disdain deck without PDK is just as good, if not better. Let's see here. Arcus Shadowcraft usage rate of 6.1%, which is the 7th highest, despite having such a high win rate here. And mid-range Shadowcraft 3.2%, 8th highest. I still think that mid-range is like really good. Like Like, really damn good. It's probably not enough people are playing it, hey? I guess a lot of people have the cards for Bat and Swordcraft in general. Whereas the new mid-range Shadowcraft requires quite a few new legendaries like the Cerberus, right? So, yeah, in general, I think good changes, but a bit more could have been done, I think. A lot of cards were changed, though, so maybe not changing all too much at one time would be better. Like, 8 is already quite a bit here, so... again, guys, you can get your free vials by vialing this, and this. These don't vial for extra because they've actually been buffed, but the ones that have been nerfed, free vials if you're not looking to use them anymore, so that's pretty good. I kind of regret vialing my Flauros now to craft Ignideus or whatever meme legendary I crafted. But, you know, I had to have 3 of every card, so, you know, what can you do? On top of the balance changes, we also got a couple more updates here on the same day, on October 29th. You can now view past Grand Prix winning decks, which is pretty cool. And one thing that's pretty relevant here is that you can't record or watch replays anymore, I think, if I'm reading this right, which is kind of brutal. I'm not sure if you can watch your replays still. You definitely can't record your replays anymore. But watching your replays, not so sure. If you can watch your replays, that'd be great, because then you could, you know, record it on OBS or anything. But if that feature is not available on the 29th, it'll be pretty sad. So fingers crossed that this doesn't mean what I fear it means. And of course, the announcements about the updates as well for the cards. Alright, well, that's it. Those are my thoughts on the nerfs and buffs. Let me know what you guys think. Were they good nerfs? Were they bad nerfs? What would you have liked to see nerfed or buffed instead? In the comments down below, let me know so I can read them, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion about it. That's it for this video. Like it if you did, don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Shadowverse content in the very near future, and of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons, patreon.com/Ignideus. If you'd like to support the channel as well, I highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.